Welcome all to the hunt, and today we shall be hunting the raging Brachydios himself. The raging Brachydios. Harder, faster, longer, worser. He sucks. He sucks so much to fight. He's a load of bullshit. He's so bullshit. There's not a whole lot of people that like him for very good reason. He's just the worst. Oh my god. So, the reason why I say this is, as you can see, he's bigger, he's stronger, he's faster because he's bigger, and he's also worse because of it. His skeleton is so big, his weak points are relatively much harder to go through, and the hitboxes, man, they just don't make any sense! They don't make any bloody sense! You think you're out of the way for anything to be like a problematic issue. And then the raging Brachydios goes in and he's like, nah. Actually, you're gonna get hit. Just like the original Brachydios, knowing your positioning is extremely important, and you'll mostly get outplayed for a large portion of the fight, which makes the fight problematic. Just like the original, he places slime on his body parts, which means the arms and the horn, in order to make his slime a lot more devastating, so he can chain attacks. He has more AoE, more moves, more acid boxes, more of everything. And of course, the best ability of all that we don't even have time to see in this fight is that if you hit a couple of his weak points, so where we're talking the horns or the arms, while they are slimed up, a slime pool will drop right on top of you. And if you stand in that slime pool because you have a short range weapon like SNS, like switch axe, like dual blades, you will get instantly dead, even with armor, or take a lot of damage on top of it. So for the Naked Monster Hunter Challenge, not only do you have to be extremely careful about your positioning because the pools of slime are now bigger for some reason, he drops him at the will if you actually hit the weak point. Punishing the raging Brachydios is extremely difficult, if only for the fact that trying to punish him results in the fact that you get punished for actually hitting the correct spot, which is harder to hit because he's bigger! He's not good to fight, he's bullshit, I don't like him. He's a cool fight at first because he's a very scripted fight. But at the end of the day, the hitboxes that you have to deal with are usually worse for that factor alone. And that entire factor alone. I'm not kidding here, I just genuinely don't like him. Again, conceptually, a great idea for a variant monster, right? This Brachydios variant is like, you're fighting a substantially bigger Brachydios. That's a lot more deadly, as you just saw. Actually, we went for a slime drop there, which is kind of cool. But like, the arms are hard to reach, just like the original Brachydios. He can basically circle you by strafing around while he's placing pools of slime at the bottom. And I don't know if it's the skeleton that's broken or something on him, but generally, some of the attacks, while you think you're out of range, you're actually completely at default of dying. And see that? See where the explosion landed and see where my character was at. That somehow still hit me. I could say this about a lot of monsters that have AoE attacks. I feel like most of the explosions are usually badly telegraphed, and you can be like, oh well, the shrapnel of the explosions is what got you, or like the bigger radius. But it's not clearly defined, unlike other monsters. Another monster that we'll talk about very soon, which I believe is next episode. But it's just to tell you that there's no real strategy for the raging Brachydios. Staying far away from him can basically mean that you're dead because he can pounce on you super easily. You can chain AoE attacks for days that will punish you forever. If you're a melee user, it's super hard to hit his weak point just because he stands that much more above you and you need to initiate the trip to even deal some kind of damage. Going for a tail cut, a tail sever, is essentially pointless because the tail is so high, it already has a high threshold, and it doesn't deal like, you don't have an incredible amount of damage dealing with the tail because you'll mostly hit the tail tip, which is extremely hard. And like, there's a lot of scenarios here that just, also the slime drop, it does not make things easier at all. So like, At the end of the day, there's a lot of good things to say about Raging Brachydios and how well the scripted fight it is. And unfortunately, we don't get to see it in this episode in particular, but I never get to even the 4th phase. Raging Brachydios has theoretically 4 cycles in the fight. Cycle 1 is you fight it in this initial area. The cycle 2, you fight it in a neutral area. Cycle 3, you fight him in the main area of the lava zone, and in the 4th cycle you fight him in an enclosed space where locks you out. You can't use Farcaster, you can use retreating items, and the only way to basically get done in that fight is you either win or the Brachydios kills you. And again, such a good conceptual idea. And I will say, fighting Raging is Raging is not that bad in the 4th cycle. If you fight him in his 1st, 2nd, and 3rd cycle, that's where he sucks. Because that's where he has the slime drop, which is by far his most annoying ability, because when you're in a down option, and especially for something like Dual Blades where you need to essentially root yourself in place to deal maximum amount of DPS with your Demon Dance. If you hit a point that just been slimed up, which there's very little way for you to know when a part is slimed up or not, which is bullshit to begin with, and a slime drop drops on top of you, it takes 1 second for that thing to drop, slime blight you, and then explode in your face, and then the slime blight explodes on top of that, dealing double damage! It's so bad! Who likes that? Who actually likes that? Let's take a little bit of time to look at the math. I need to settle down. So the math, here's how it goes. The one is 60, the head is 60, the neck 32, body 32, also arms 55, legs 32, tails 50, the tail tip at 18, and the horn forearms and tail tip when in a flashpoint slime is at 75. All good. Lots of damage can be done. A relatively high... I hate these explosions so much. I hate these explosions so much. The man is fine. There's nothing in particular to say about it. He's extremely weak to ice in his weak points, but then again, you'll never reach his weak points because they're so hard to hit. Get that away from here. So, Raging Brachydios. Again, if I don't really have a strategy against it, if there's ever something that I say that you should worry about when fighting Brachydios, is stay as much as possible and as close as possible to his legs. If you want to have a safe fight, if you want to be gung-ho about it, sure, aim for the arms, aim for the head. You may have a shot at reaching the head once in a blue moon if you're a longsword user, but outside of that, for the realm of possibilities for every other weapon in existence, stay for the legs. It's just like the Shaurage Valda, except that this monster is a lot more agile, a lot more difficult to go for, and the legs have not too good of hitboxes. Hit zone values, 32 is fine. If you tenderize it, that becomes a valuable weak point, but outside of that, it ain't gonna happen. If you think you're safe at the side or below his stomach, you usually won't be during an attack. It usually punishes you hard, which is unfortunate to say, but there's a lot of scenarios where you just believe that you're safe, and the world just says, no. Here! I was in the middle of dodging. How did that high frames did not bust me through that? Like, I perfectly dodged that. And the iframe was like, no. Actually, you're gonna die here. Here, I was below the stomach while he basically heaped his head forward. I was nowhere near the head, and that killed me. There's so many instances where Raging does something like that, and it's complete bullshit! I'm done. I'm too worked up. End of the episode. I can't deal with this too much. My blood pressure's too high. We'll see you all on another hunt.